welcome back in part 2 of Steam. Anyways, let's continue.
Until 2012, Valve handpicked games to be included on the Steam service, limiting these to games supported by a major developer or produced by smaller studios with proven track records.
Since then, Valve have sought ways to enable more games to be offered through Steam, while pulling away from manually approving games, short of validating that a game runs on the platforms the publisher had indicated.
In 2017, Steam development team member Alden Cole said that Valve knows that Steam is in a position of near monopoly for game sales on personal computers. And in order not to control what is sold, they have tried to take the process of adding games outside Steam's control.
At the same time, Valve recognized that unfettered control of games in the service can lead to discovery problems as well as low-quality games.
Valve announced Steam Greenlight to streamline Game Addition to the service in July 2012 and released the following month.
Through Greenlight, Steam users would choose which games were added to the service.
Developers were able to submit information about their games, as well as early builds or beta versions, for consideration by users.
Users would pledge support for these games, and Valve would make top pledged games available on Steam.
In response to complaints during its first week that finding games to support was made difficult by a flood of inappropriate or false submissions, Valve required developers to pay US $100 to list a game on the service.
Those fees were donated to the charity Child's Play.
This fee was met with some concern from smaller developers who often are already working in a deficit and may not have the money to cover such fees.
A later modification allowed developers to put conceptual ideas on the Greenlight service to garner interest in potential projects free of charge. Votes from such projects are visible only to the developer.
Valve also allowed non-gaming software to be voted onto the service through Greenlight. The initial process offered by Greenlight was panned by developers because while they favored the concept, the rate of games that were eventually approved were small.
In January 2013, Newell stated that Valve recognized that its role in Greenlight was perceived as a bottleneck. Something the company was planning to eliminate in the future through an open marketplace infrastructure.
On the eve of Greenlight's first anniversary, Valve simultaneously approved 100 games to demonstrate this change of direction. Valve launched Steam Direct on June 15, 2017, following Greenlight shutdown the week before.
With Steam Direct, a developer or publisher wishing to distribute their game on Steam needs only to complete appropriate identification and tax forms for Valve and then pay a recoupable application fee for each game they intend to publish.
Once they apply, a developer must wait 30 days before publishing the game to allow Valve to review the game to ensure it is configured correctly, matches the description provided on the store page, and doesn't contain malicious content. On announcing its plans for Steam Direct, Valve suggested the fee would be in the range of $100 to $5,000, meant to encourage earnest software submissions to the service and weed out poor quality games that are treated as shovelware, improving the discovery pipeline to Steam's customers.
Smaller developers raised concerns about the direct fee harming them and excluding potentially good and die games from reaching the Steam store.
Valve opted to set the direct fee at $100 after reviewing concerns from the community and outlined plans to improve their discovery algorithms and inject more human involvement to help these.
Valve refunds the fee should the game exceed $1,000 in sales.
In the process of transitioning from Greenlight to Direct, Valve S approved most of the 3,400 remaining games that were still in Greenlight, though the company noted that not all of these were in fit state to be published.
Valve anticipated that the volume of new games added to the service would further increase with Direct in place.
Some groups, such as publisher Authority and crowdfunding/investment site Fig, have offered to pay the direct fee for indie developers who cannot afford it.
VentureBeat compared the system to the Google Play Store.
Without more direct interaction in the curation process, Valve had looked to find methods to allow players to find games they would be more likely to buy based on previous purchase patterns.
Valve has rejected the use of paid advertising or placement on the storefront, which would have created a pay-to-win scenario.
Instead, the company had relied on algorithms and other automatic features for game discovery, which has allowed for unexpected hits to gain more visibility. The September 2014 Discovery Update added tools that would allow existing Steam users to be curators for game recommendations and sorting functions that presented more popular games and recommended games specific to the user.
This Discovery Update was considered successful by Valve, as in March 2015 it reported increased use of the Steam storefront and an 18% increase of sales by revenue from just prior to the update.
A second Discovery Update was released November 2016, giving users more control over what games they want to see or ignore within the Steam store, alongside tools for developers and publishers to better customize and present their game. By February 2017, Valve reported that with a second Discovery Update, the number of games shown to users via the store's front page increased by 42%, with more conversions into sales from that viewership.
In 2016, more games are meeting a rough metric of success, defined by Valve as selling more than $200,000 in revenues in its first 90 days of release.
Valve added a Curator Connect program in December 2017.
Curators can set up descriptors for the type of games they are interested in, preferred languages, and other tags along with social media profiles. While developers can find and reach out to specific curators from this information and, after review, provide them directly with access to their game.
This step, which eliminates the use of the Steam redemption key, is aimed at reducing the reselling of keys, as well as dissuading users who may be trying to game the curator system to obtain free game keys. Valve has attempted to deal with fake games, those that are built around reused assets and little other innovation, by adding Steam Explorers atop its existing Steam Curator program.
Any Steam user can sign up to be an explorer and be asked to look at underperforming games on the service to either vouch that the game is truly original, or if it is an example of a fake game, at which point Valve can take action to remove the game.
In July 2019, the Steam Labs feature was introduced as a means to showcase experimental discovery features Valve considered for including into Steam to seek public feedback.
For example, an initial experiment released at launch was the Interactive Recommender, which uses artificial intelligence algorithms pulling data from the user's past gameplay history to suggest new games that may be of interest to them.
As these experiments mature through end-user testing, they have then been brought into the storefront as direct features. The September 2019 Discovery Update, which Valve claimed would improve the visibility of niche and lesser-known games, was met with criticism from some indie game developers, who recorded a significant drop in the exposure of their games, including new wishlist additions and appearances in the More Like This and Discovery Queue sections of the store. Steam charts were introduced in September 2022 and publicly track the storefront's best-selling and most played games, including historically, by week and month.
Whoa!
Charts replaced a previous statistics page to be more comprehensive and features content that had previously been part of third-party websites including Steam Spy, SteamDB, and Steam Charts.
Cataloging of accessibility features were added to Steam in mid-2025.
Wishlist categories were added in July 2026.
In June 2015, Valve created a formal process to allow purchasers to request refunds, with refunds guaranteed within the first 2 weeks as long as the player had not spent more than 2 hours in a game.
Prior to June 2015, Valve had a no-refunds policy that allowed them in certain circumstances, such as digital rights management issues or false advertising.
Games that are no longer available for sale for various reasons can still be downloaded and played by those who have already purchased these. With the launch of Steam Direct, effectively removing any curation of games by Valve prior to being published on Steam, there have been several incidents of published games that have attempted to mislead Steam users.
Starting in June 2018, Valve has taken actions against games and developers that are showing the system in September 2018. Valve explicitly defined that trolls on Steam are actually interested in good faith efforts to make and sell games to you or anyone.
As an example, Valve's Doug Lombardi stated that the game active shooter, which would have allowed the player to play as either a SWAT team member tasked to take down the shooter in a school shooting incident or as the shooter themselves, was an example of trolling, as he claimed it was designed to do nothing but generate outrage and cause conflict through its existence.
Within a month of clarifying its definition of trolling, Valve removed approximately 170 games from Steam.
In addition to removing bad actors, Valve has also taken steps to reduce the impact of fake games, which could be used to manipulate the trading card marketplace or artificially boost the user's Steam level, in addition to changes in Steam to prevent such abuse.
Some of these changes have resulted in select false positives for legitimate games with unusual and user usage patterns, such as Wanderson, which was flagged in January 2019 for what the developer believed was related to near unanimous positive user reviews for the game.
Other actions taken by developers against the terms of service or other policies have prompted Valve to remove games, which has included asset flips, review manipulation, misuse of Steamworks tools, and hostile activities towards Steam users. Valve has banned games that incorporate blockchain-type technologies, such as non-fungible tokens, NFTs, since 2022 due to the questionable nature of their markets.
With the rise of generative artificial intelligence in 2023, Valve originally established that games with content generated in this manner could be distributed through Steam, though cautioned developers about assuring that they have the rights for this type of content.
As greater concerns about the copyright and ethical nature of generational AI in the latter half of 2023, Valve clarified its stance in January 2024. requiring games that did use content from generational AI to disclose this on the game store page, including methods that the developers used to assure the AI engines did not generate illegal content.
Valve updated policies in February to ban games that incorporated paid advertising as part of the gameplay cycle, such as viewing an ad for virtual rewards.
Valve has also removed or threatened to remove games due to inappropriate or mature content, though there was often confusion as to what material qualified for this.
For example, Eat Games House Party included scenes of nudity and sexual encounters in its original release, which drew criticism from conservative religious organization National Center on Sexual Exploitation, leading Valve to remove the title.
Eat Games later included censored bars within the game, allowing the game to be added back to Steam, though it offered a patch on its website to remove the bars.
In May 2018, several developers abandoned stylized games that contained some light nudity, such as Unipop. Were told by Valve they had to address sexual content within their games or face removal from Steam, leading to questions of inconsistent application of Valve's policies.
The National Center on Sexual Exploitation took credit for convincing Valve to target these games.
However, Valve later rescinded its orders, allowing these games to remain.
In June 2018, Valve clarified its policy on content, taking a more hands-off approach outside of illegal material.
Rather than trying to make decisions themselves on what content is appropriate, Valve enhanced its filtering system to allow developers and publishers to indicate and justify the types of mature content. Violence, nudity, and sexual content in their games.
Users can block games that are marked with this type of content from appearing in the store, and if they have not blocked it, they are presented with a description before they can continue to the store page.
Developers and publishers with existing games on Steam have been strongly encouraged to complete these forms for these games, while Valve will use moderators to make sure new games are appropriately marked.
Valve also committed to developing anti-harassment tools to support developers who may find their game amid controversy.
So we ended up going back to one of the principles in the forefront of our minds when we started Steam, and more recently as we worked on Steam Direct to open up the store to many more developers. Valve shouldn't be the ones deciding this. If you're a player, we shouldn't be choosing for you what content you can or can't buy. If you're a developer, we shouldn't be choosing what content you're allowed to create. Those choices should be yours to make. Our role should be to provide systems and tools to support your efforts to make these choices for yourself, and to help you do it in a way that makes you feel comfortable. Eric Johnson of Valve.
Until these tools were in place, some adult-themed games were delayed for release.
Negligee Love Stories, developed by Darker Studios, was one of the first sexually explicit games to be offered after the introduction of the tools in September 2018.
Darker noted in discussions with Valve that they would be liable for any content-related fines or penalties that countries may place on Valve, a clause of their publishing contract with Steam, and took steps to restrict sale of the game in over 20 regions.
Games that feature mature themes with primary characters that visually appear to be underage, even if the game's narrative establishes them as adults, have been banned by Valve.
In March 2019, Valve faced pressure over Rape Day, a planned game described as being a dark comedy and power fantasy where the player would control a serial rapist amid a zombie apocalypse.
Valve ultimately decided against offering the game on Steam, arguing that while it respects developers' desire to express themselves, there were costs and risks associated with the game, and the developers had chosen content matter in a way of representing it that makes it very difficult for us to help them find an audience.
In December 2020, following a complaint from Betty Mansell Hamburg/Leswood Holstein regarding store page images on Steam, Valve opted to block access to games with adults only 18 plus pornographic content in Germany.
The Anti-Defamation League published a report in November 2024 accusing Valve of allowing the proliferation of hate and anti-Semitic content generated by users and user groups. With over 40,000 groups identified to have names referring to such extreme views.
Senator Mark Warner followed with a letter to Valve, asking the company if it was following its published online content policies and to review the cases identified by the ADL. Valve updated its storefront policies in July 2025 to disallow games that content that may violate the rules and standards set forth by Steam's payment processors and related card networks and banks or internet network providers, leading to around 400 games rated for mature audiences being pulled from the service.
Valve affirmed this change was made due to pressure from banks and payment processors.
This action appeared to arise from an open letter sent to the payment processors by Collective Shout, an Australian non-profit group.
Melinda Tankard-Reist, the leader of Collective Shout, said that it had identified over 500 games with such themes, such as rape, incest and child abuse, leading to the call for payment processors to take action.
In related actions, by September 2025, Valve changed its rules for adult games, disallowing them to use the Early Access program as part of their game's release, and requiring existing games that intend to add mature content to issue it as DLC that can be reviewed by Valve, rather than as a patch. In August 2025, in compliance with the United Kingdom's Online Safety Act, Steam began requiring age verification before allowing UK users to view store pages for games with adult content.
As of September 2025, the only available method of verification is via users adding a valid credit card to their account, which has drawn some criticism surrounding adult users who cannot obtain a credit card. We will continue more about Steam in Part 3, so stay tuned.